Hello, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to another episode of From Religion to Agnostic. Enosh or Enosh, Hebrew, for mortal man, is a character in the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible. He is described as the first son of Seth who figures in the generations of Adam, and is also referred to within the genealogies of 1 Chronicles. According to Christianity, he is part of the genealogy of Jesus as mentioned in Luke 3:38. Enosh is also mentioned in Islam in the various collections of tales of the pre-Islamic prophets, which honor him in an identical manner. Furthermore, early Islamic historians like Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Hisham always included his name in the genealogy of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Enosh, not to be confused with Enoch, was born in the year 235 from creation, 3526 BCE. His father's name was Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. He was given the name Enosh, which means person, or people, because it was around that time that the world began to be more heavily inhabited by people. He lived a total of 905 years, and died in the year 1140 from creation, 2621 BCE. Here is what I found when looking through Jewish sources. In Judaism, Genesis 4:26 says, "And to Seth, to him also there was born a son. And he called his name Enosh. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord." The traditional Jewish interpretation of this verse, though, implies that it marked the beginning of idolatry, i.e. that men start dubbing Lord things that were mere creatures. So I looked into this word and into some other sources, and here is an explanation in short. Torah record, there is very little mention made of Enosh in the Torah, and most of what we know about him and his times is from Midrashic and Talmudic sources. Here is what the Torah itself has to say about Enosh. Mind you, the description is rather ambiguous and leaves a lot of room for interpretation. "And to Seth also a son was born, and he named him Enosh, then Huchel to call by the name of the Lord." Note that the word Huchel has been left untranslated. That was done deliberately, because it is not entirely clear what the word means. Many different interpretations have been offered. Naturally, the Torah narrative will vary based on the different interpretations. These are a number of commentaries offered on this verse. First we will look at Rashi. Huchel comes from the Hebrew word kol, which means profaned. Then it became profaned to call by the name of the Lord. In the times of Enosh, people began associating the name of God with things other than God, namely idols, and other people. More on this later. As a result, the name of God became profaned. Next we look at Ibn Ezra's commentary on it. Huchel comes from the Hebrew word hishel, which means, to begin. Then people began to call in the name of the Lord. It was in the times of Enosh that people began engaging in the practice of prayer, calling out to the name of God. Previously, people did not believe that prayer was effective. If God had made up his mind, there was no way that it could change. This changed in the times of Enosh, and people began to pray to God. Next we will look at Sforno, who writes, "While Huchel means begin, it has a negative connotation. Then, the righteous, began to preach in the name of the Lord." Until the times of Enosh, there was no need to preach about God, everyone was already aware of his presence and power. It was in his times that this knowledge diminished, and it became necessary for those in the know to preach about his existence. Okay, so lastly we look at what Maimonides writes in Mishnah Torah Avodot Kochavim chapter 1:1 and 2. During the times of Enosh, mankind made a great mistake, and the wise men of that generation gave thoughtless counsel. Enosh himself was one of those who erred. Their mistake was as follows: they said God created stars and spheres with which to control the world. He placed them on high and treated them with honor, making them servants who minister before him. Accordingly, it is fitting to praise and glorify them and to treat them with honor. They perceived this to be the will of God, blessed be he, that they magnify and honor those whom he magnified and honored, just as a king desires that the servants who stand before him be honored. Indeed, doing so is an expression of honor to the king. And so as I did my research looking for more on his time, I ran across this. More on his era. There are scattered references in Midrashic sources which give us a glimpse into the goings-on of the times. Here is one of the more fascinating accounts. The generation of Enosh approached him and asked, "What is the name of your father?" To which he responded, "Seth." "The name of your grandfather?" "Adam." "And what was Adam's father's name?" they asked. "He had no father," Enosh explained. God created his form from the earth and then blew into his nostrils a living soul. They said to Enosh, "Demonstrate how it was done." Enosh then took a handful of dirt and formed the image of a man, and the evil spirit entered into his nostrils and he became alive. The people declared this being as their god, and they believed in it. Aside for clearly portraying Enosh as the ringleader, this midrash gives us insight into the extent to which their practices and beliefs went. They created an outright golem, which they viewed and treated as a god. The results of their actions were forthcoming. The midrash relates. 4 things changed in the times of Enosh. First, the mountains became rocky. Second, the deceased began to rot. Third, people's faces became similar to those of apes. And fourth, people became susceptible to demons. Witchcraft and sorcery became widespread as well in his times. We are told that even young children were well trained in occult practices, and that when the time came for Noah's flood, the people did not heed Noah's warnings because of the trust they had in their magical powers. In Christianity, Enosh is included in the genealogy of Jesus, according to Luke 3:23-28. Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, according to the Book of Jubilees, 4:11-13. In the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, Enosh was born in AM 235, and began to call on the name of the Lord on the earth. He married his sister, Noam, and she bore him Kenan in the year 325 AM. Ethiopian Orthodox tradition considers him a faithful and righteous servant of God, and further credits him with the introduction, following a divine revelation, of the Ge'ez alphabet in its original, consonant-only form, as an instrument for codifying the laws. Latter-day Saint Scripture, the Doctrine and Covenants teaches that Enosh was ordained to the priesthood at age 134 when Adam called his posterity into the land of Adam-ondi Ammon to give them a final blessing. Enosh was one of the righteous high priests in attendance. 19th century Protestantism, according to Matthew George Easton, 19th century Scottish Presbyterian preacher and author of Easton's Bible Dictionary. In his time, men began to call upon the name of the Lord, Genesis 4:26, meaning either 1. Then began men to call themselves by the name of the Lord, i.e. to distinguish themselves thereby from idolaters, or 2. Then men in some public and earnest way began to call upon the Lord, indicating a time of spiritual revival. In Mandaeanism, according to the Mandean scriptures including the Kolasta, the Book of John and Genza Rabbah, Enosh is cognate with the angelic soteriological figure Enosh, who taught John the Baptist and performed many of the same miracles within Jerusalem typically ascribed to Jesus by Christians. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have on the biblical figure Enosh, son of Seth. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Would definitely appreciate your help in making the channel grow. Have a great day, and peace out, y'all.